guys, so today we're going to be doing the online final for the mass communications class. Like I've done in the past, I do have my loose outline, so that's what I'm going to be reading off of for the most part. But I chose to do mine over the first option that we had, which was going to be the media literacy one. Media literacy, according to Oxford Dictionary, is the ability to critically analyze stories presented in mass media and determine the accuracy. I know that can sound like a lot, so in smaller words, dumber words, it just means to acknowledge what you're reading and understand that something that you read may be true or it may not be. It's kind of like the middle point of like figuring out if what you're reading is true or not. So with media literacy, it is important for us to understand media literacy because we as humans, we decide what we read and we decide what we believe is true or not. So, I mean, you could see something online and it could be completely fake, but you choose to believe it. I feel like for someone who doesn't have media literacy skills, it is so much easier for them to fall into that propaganda of, oh, this is true even if it's not. So, especially for us as Gen Zs, unconsciously, I think we've learned to adapt to our media literacy skills because willingly, like, we will go on TikTok and we'll scroll on our phones, scroll. Oh, I believe this TikTok. Oh, I don't believe this TikTok. And that is us. Without even knowing that you are having media literacy skills, you are having them. So, another point to make is, why is media literacy important? Critical. Media literacy is critical because, especially for us as Gen Zs, we see social media more than anyone else does. We have been the generation to be around and grow and evolve at the same time as technology is. And because of that, I think that it is important for us especially be adapted to our media literacy skills. According to a Harker Aquila article titled Generation Z Struggles with Media Literacy, the article quotes that 67% of Americans say that they have found fake news on social media. Thus, fake news especially impacts people who seek news entirely from platforms like TikTok. According to the Paw Research Center, a third of Americans under 30 use TikTok to stay informed. In general, 63% of Generation Z turn to social media rather than reliable sources for their news. This article just goes to show how much we rely on social media, how much more important it is for us, especially to have media literacy skills because of everything that we read online. We have to be able to move and maneuver what's true and what's not true. I think another very important factor to being so developed and adapted into media literacy skills has to do with the fact that we live in a generation where technology is evolving faster than we are. Things like AI, like with AI, you have to be very, very smart with what you believe and what you don't. It's so hard to distinguish what's fake and what's real. So you really have to be smart in that sense. And so I think this is where media literacy comes into play in order to move what's real and what's fake and separate it. One activity that we can use in order to allow us to kind of stay away from that issue would be using the double check method, which basically just means you, for some reason, let's say that I see a TikTok online, automatically my brain's telling me to believe it. But using the double check method, I would look at that TikTok and then I would go and say, okay, well, let me go see what Google has to say. Let me go say what another article has to say. And I double check to make sure that what I saw on TikTok matches up with what I saw online in order to make sure that I get the most, in order to allow myself to get the most accurate information. This is going to be my example of my visual aid for this exam. So I'm going to use a topic that was most recent to us right now. So this is going to be my visual aid. As we know, Brianna Aguilera, she was the A&M student who fell 17 floors down at a UT versus A&M football game after a tailgate. So on TikTok, these story time people are very known for getting their stories mixed up with what is true. So this would be me using the double check method. So I get a TikTok like this.
Investigation into the A&M student who mysteriously fell from a...
I would fully listen to what she has to say, but then afterwards, instead of going into the comment section and reading what everyone has to say, I would search up the Brianna Aguilera story. I would search up the Brianna Aguilera story on a search engine and go and personally read for myself. So this would be an example. On the ABC News, death of Texas college student Brianna Aguilera ruled suicide police. I would go ahead and read it and see to make sure that what I'm reading online matches up with what the storytime person told me on TikTok. In conclusion, media literacy is a very important skill that I believe all of us, especially us Gen Z students, should have. That's it for my final. Thank you so much.